Hey everyone, welcome back to the Sunny Side Up podcast. I am your host, Olivia Janelle, also known as Sunny No Clouds. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. If you are new to the podcast, welcome. And if you are a frequent visitor, welcome back. I know this is only episode 2, but it's okay. I truly appreciate you being here. You do not understand. Today's episode is quite interesting and it's titled No Shit, I'm Human, because when I was thinking about this episode and when I was thinking about my podcast, I had this idea that there were going to be people who are going to say, there's no way that you can always be positive. The point of my podcast is to look on the brighter side of things within business, within your life, and within social media, like everything, literally every single thing. We really are getting into something that's real that people actually can relate to. We all have our ups and our downs, and that's perfectly normal. We are going to actually dive deep into the reality of maintaining a positive mindset and why it's okay to feel those feels, because they do happen and it's okay. Let's be clear. It is scientifically impossible for you to be positive automatically, because being positive is a choice. And when we choose to be positive, is because we are looking at the positive aspect within whatever situation that we're in, right? Our brains and our nervous system and us as a being, we automatically think of the negative things because that's just our human nature. It's within our DNA. Like by default, we're born with it. When we're navigating through life and when things happen and when they do arise, like the whole purpose and the whole point of my podcast is to explain to every single person and say, hey, look, it's going to be a bumpy ride, and guess what? That's okay, because when things happen to us, we're able to look at the brighter side of whatever the situation is. We live in a world where social media often shows the highlights of life, like as if everybody has it all figured out. And the reality is nobody necessarily really has it all figured out. They just trusted the process and they just trust their journey and they just went for it. They took action. They showed up every single day. But the truth is everybody has bad days, and that's completely normal. The pressure to always be positive is overwhelming, and quite frankly, it's unrealistic. As we dive into this episode, my intent is for you to understand, you know what? Yes, I have my bad days, but you know what? Let me try and look at the brighter side of what is actually going on. And to be perfectly honest with you, today, on this day of me recording this episode, I had a battle with myself throughout majority of the day, and I tried to get myself out of it, try to get on myself out of it, right? Didn't happen. And then something else popped up too in a current situation. And I'm like, well, how do I deal with that? How am I able to show up for myself, even though I'm feeling these feels? Like I was bawling my eyes out prior to making this episode. And I tell you that because I'm encouraging you to step into the future version of yourself, because I know deep down inside, the future version of myself is going to want me to make this episode, is going to want me to step up and show up for myself, even though I'm still feeling those feels. And I honestly don't know if they're going to ever go away either, because it's a little situation that it's obviously like a professional situation, but I'm just like, it's not fair. It's not fair to anyone. But my point is that you have to show up for yourself. If you don't show up for yourself, and if you don't speak up for yourself, you are not going to get the things that you want within your life. And I know I am a living testimony of that, for sure. Not only like a living testimony, but like to the actual T of me giving you a real life example of, I have a situation, I'm trying to think positive over it, even though it every bone in my body is like, no, this is not right. I had a conversation with myself and I'm like, look, girl, you wanted to do this podcast, right? You wanted to do this episode today. Even though something showed up and even though something popped up, you still are going to stick to your words because that's who you are. And that's exactly what I'm doing at this current moment, because I know that my future self is going to thank me. So make sure that you show up for yourself. Let's uncover like this elephant in the room that you always have to be positive, because being positive is really unrealistic, even though my whole entire podcast is about that. But it's like I'm giving you the tools to help you to think positive. And whenever we are feeling these emotions, that's just part of our human DNA. You know, It's the natural part of being a human. There is a book that I have been reading, and I have to get back to reading it, but it's called Emotional Intelligence, and I will leave it linked in the description notes of this episode so that you too can read this book. But it is amazing. And not only is it amazing, but it does highlight some things that I myself haven't like took a deep dive into. Also going on with the myth of being always positive is social media, because social media will really highlight a lot of these different personas that we as people see on a day-to-day basis. I mean, unless you have some type of discipline where you're not on social media constantly, which myself, I've been practicing that a lot, you will stop feeding your brain the BS and actually step into whatever it is that you want to achieve. These online personas create pressure on how to actually be perfect. But if you know something about life, is that nothing's perfect. Nothing in our life is perfect at all. But the way that we choose to look at something and the way that we choose to respond to something and the way that we choose to show up to something, you have to ask yourself, am I looking at the positive aspect of it or am I looking at the negative aspect of it? Whatever it is, that usually is going to be the outcome of whatever situation it is. If I think positive within the situation, of course, it's going to be positive. If you're thinking negatively of it, of course it's going to be negative. I can remember in a very serious situation within my life, like what, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, the normal person would think negatively of this situation, right? But I remember this was actually the first time I meditated. And I remember sitting there just closing my eyes, meditating, doing something that I've never done before, and hoping for the best out of this situation. And I did it. And it's because I was able to pause and actually realize, like, okay, what can come from this? What out of this situation can I break free from and actually be in more of a positive energy flow? I'm not saying I do that with every situation, because automatically as a human, you're not going to do that. But when you do come to a point, you have to think to yourself, what can come of this? If you look at all the different scenarios, all the positive scenarios, and you stack them up, those are going to be part of your belief system that it's going to be true. And in essence, like, you're manifesting it. Whew. That was pretty good. Very proud. I am very proud of myself, I have to say. And you know what? You should be proud of yourself too. You've gotten this far within your life to do whatever it is that you're achieving within your life. Whatever you have overcome as well too. You have to you constantly have to remind yourself that on a day-to-day basis, because if you don't, it just becomes more difficult to navigate through life. And that comes down to practicing gratitude. You constantly have to practice gratitude. Now that we have identified the myth of being positive, I want us to go dive into understanding emotions. And when we're diving into these emotions and understanding the emotions, is that when we understand and experience a full range of emotions, it's not only normal, but it's also healthy. Because when you understand the different emotions, you are able to have an emotional intelligence. You're able to react to certain situations more in not necessarily positive, but obviously positive, that's of course you would want to, but more in the aspect of healthy. My point is that you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have every single thing figured out. You just need to be able to use different strategies within your life on a daily basis. It's not like when certain things happen, it's on a day-to-day basis that will help you within your life. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. I hope that if there's somebody within your life that could receive this episode, please send it to them. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please give this video a review. I don't even know, because I'm so used to my YouTube outro that I really need to come in with a Sunny Side Up podcast outro. But I genuinely really do thank every single person that does tune into my episode. I mean, episode 1 was definitely interesting. I'm so incredibly grateful for that. I got got a lot of great feedback off of that. And I honestly thought to myself, I'm like, damn, I did a shitty job. But I knew that I was expecting that, you know, like every single time I do that, like it's okay. If you enjoyed this episode, please give this a review. If you have any questions, there's a question box below here on Spotify. And I just want to say thank you. I'm so happy and grateful to actually be doing this. And yeah, I can't wait to see you guys in the next episode. Bye. Yeah, no, like no shit, I'm human. No shit, I'm human. I'm not going to be positive all the time. It's scientifically impossible for you to be positive. By default, we're all fucked up. We just have to come to a conclusion of like, you know what? I got this. I could do this. Let's go. I appreciate you. I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Make sure you're saying sunny side up, okay? That's it. That's all.